just came in here to tell you that Kane Hodder is the best Jason. So.
And as he steals a liquid death from my refrigerator, he wants to let everyone know that Kane Hodder is the best Jason Voorhees. Him and I, as father and son, will always disagree. Welcome back, friends, to another episode of Camp Cinema. Tonight is part 2 of 4 of my series of ranking the Friday the 13th movies. We have already done the first 3 colossal turds, 12 through 10. They were some choice picks. So tonight we're doing 9 through 7, and without further ado, we are going to hop to it with my number 9. Now, I know some people may even disagree that this movie is on the list, but it is on the list because it actually came with the series, so it is included and considered part of the series. And coming in at number 9 is Freddy vs. Jason. As horror fans, there was a ton of us that were so excited that this movie was coming out, and I was one of them. This had been in the talks for years of this movie, but due to legal positions as far as Paramount owning this part of Friday the 13th and New Line now owning the images of Jason Voorhees, they just couldn't get their shit together. Basically what it boils down to is this millionaire over here didn't think this millionaire over here was paying him enough millions, so...
Cocaine and hookers, my friend.
Who suffers? We do, the fans. So anyways, after years and years and years of talking about Freddy vs. Jason, we finally get it. First and foremost, we're going to talk about where this movie failed, ultimately. And that is going to start directly at the top with the hiring of the director. I have nothing personal against Ronnie Yu, obviously. I don't know the man, but I know his films, and his films, of course, are action martial art films, not horror films. After this one, he did go on to direct one more horror film, and that was like The Cult of Chucky, I believe, one of the Chuckies. But when you have 2 of the biggest icons in horror film history about to square off in one movie, and you as producers and a studio decide to hire a director that is not even a fan of the genre, mind-boggling to me. I don't understand why they thought that was a good idea to do. And the movie suffers for it. It 100% suffers for the fact that a director of a completely different style and genre of movies directed what could have been potentially one of the greatest horror icon matchups in film history. And sadly, it didn't translate. Once again, these are my opinions. Some people out there may love this movie and think that it was great and think that the direction it went was great. This is just my opinions, as always. My channel, my opinions. Robert Englund did his best with the material. He really did. He tried to bring Freddy Krueger and give the Freddy fans what they wanted. The premise of it is acceptable. Like, I didn't hate the script. I didn't hate the story. The story is that all the children of Elm Street have forgotten Freddy. No one speaks his name, and they're not afraid of him anymore, so they don't dream about him, so he has no power. Jason is an entity, I guess, like we're in the spirit world.
We're in the spirit world, asshole. They can't see us.
But anyways, somehow Freddy invades Jason in hell or wherever he is, takes on the shape of Jason's mother, and says that mother wants you to go to Elm Street and murder people. So what Freddy's plan is to get Jason back into the real world so Jason can go start killing all these people, in which the town will end up believing Freddy's back and his name will spread and the children will be afraid again, and then Freddy can come back and manifest in their dreams and start to kill everyone. Well, of course, this backfires on Freddy, because once Jason starts killing, he doesn't want to give that up, and the body count rises, and Freddy isn't getting his time. So, now you have Freddy realizing that he has to stop Jason before he's able to start doing all the things he wants to do. Another reason why this movie is sitting at number 9, and I'll be honest, I do lump this movie in kind of with the first 3 that we talked about as a very bad Jason movie. It's not necessarily a Friday the 13th, but first of all, Jason doesn't even look cool. Much to the chagrin of horror fans and Friday the 13th fans, Kane Hodder was not cast as Jason in this movie. I came out in the video before stating that Kane Hodder was not my favorite Jason, and he's not. But I understand that the man did four Friday the 13th before this, played Jason 4 times. And then when the biggest opportunity possibly of his career to play Jason, he gets passed over by this director. That's another problem right there. The guy just didn't fucking get it. Like, how at this point of the Jason lore you do not cast Kane Hodder? Jason didn't even look cool. He just didn't even look cool. I don't understand how you can't grasp the concept of making Jason Voorhees look cool. It was bad. It was a bad design. Like, this is what Jason should look like. I understand this one, it's the sackhead. He doesn't have the hockey mask yet, but I'll be honest, sackhead Jason is kick ass. Anywho, and then you finally get what we've all been waiting for. You finally get Freddy versus Jason. And it is filmed so cartoonish that you almost want the Looney Tunes music in the background. Like, it is Bugs Bunny meets Wile E. Coyote.
Oh, scary. Tilt.
It is shot so ridiculous that I almost wanted to leave the theater at this point. Once the fight actually started, I wanted to leave the theater, but I figured I've paid my money. I'm going to sit and watch the conclusion, which the conclusion is not a conclusion. And fans have battled this now for years of who actually won the fight, and everyone says Jason. A lot of people say Jason won the fight because he's the one that walks out of the lake carrying Freddy's head, but clearly Freddy is unfazed by this, because even though his head is decapitated, he's still smiling and winking at you. So I don't know how they thought that this was acceptable to horror fans, that this is what you're going to give us for Freddy vs. Jason. So it comes in at a strong number 9 of my rankings list as one of the worst, and this one also is going to get the floor. Now, moving on to number 8 on the list here. This is one that it's a love-hate, and maybe there's a few that are on a little bit on the in-between. I'll be honest, I'm one that's a little bit on the in-between, because out of all of the ones that we have spoken about so far in this review, this is the most back to the basics of Friday the 13th. And that is, of course, Friday the 13th, Part 5, The New Beginning. As I said, a little bit of a love-hate and a little bit of that middle of the road for me. I understand that they realize basically what happened is the cash cow machine, the producers, Frank Mancuso and Paramount, realize that they probably just screwed up killing Jason in part 4, because these movies are an enormous cash cow. They bring in dollars, because these movies cost 5 cents to make, and they make millions.
Cocaine and hookers, my friend.
So they had to figure out a way. Well, we just killed Jason Voorhees, so what do we do? Enter The New Beginning, in which, if you haven't seen this movie yet, you're never going to, so you're not going to care that I ruin this. But it is not Jason Voorhees, it is Roy Burns, who happens to be an ambulance driver that shows up to the, I guess it's like a halfway house for kind of insane teenagers, and this is where Tommy Jarvis now resides. And Roy's son that didn't know you, anywho, Roy's son gets killed at the halfway house, and he decides to don the myth of Jason Voorhees and go out and exact his vengeance. So this one, as I said, at least it's a Friday the 13th. At least you know what you're getting. He's not in outer space. He's not a Terminator. And he's not, at this point, since it's not even Jason, it's not a resurrected zombie Jason. This is just a traditional, old school slasher film. And for that part, I can appreciate it. And it does have some very, very quality kills in it. One of the funny things about Part 5 is that the director, his name is Danny Steinman, of course was hired because you pay him $5, he'll come direct your movie. Well, he was mostly at this point known for filming softcore pornography, I guess, and you can definitely feel that vibe in Part 5. Part 5 is 100% the sleaziest Friday the 13th of all of them.
You big dildo. Eat your fucking slop.
This whole thing is just nothing but TNA. I mean, that's all it is. That TNA and gore. And what is nice is that, yes, some of the kills were a little bit censored. This was before it was getting out of control to where you couldn't even show a drop of blood without the PMRC, wanting to, burn every theater down if you played it. So you do get some quality gore in this one.
Oh, God! It's all right.
Bunch of pussies.
And one of the most iconic ones in this movie is he gets this leather strap. He just killed the dude's girlfriend. Dude's walking back through the woods, sees the girlfriend dead, backs up against a tree, and this strap comes around his eyes, and the guy's twisting it in these. I'll just show it. Here you go. Yeah, so as I said, that was a good quality kill in this. I remember a lot of the actors had a very big problem with Danny Steinman, though. If you watch the Camp Crystal Lake Memories documentary about it, it really dives into it. And the poor lead actress, she really did not enjoy her time on this movie at all. She thought she got cast in this movie and was going to be treated to limos and on set catering. It was no, drive your own car and go get yourself some Taco Bell. This is a Friday the 13th. You're making $10 a day. So I guess this was the 80s. This is where you should have known, if you're going to be in one of these movies, you're not going to make a lot of money, but you are going to be part of a huge story that, if you're smart and maybe you invested a little bit in these, maybe you're getting some coin now. But anyways, part 5, I really don't have many problems with it, other than the fact that it is not Jason Voorhees, so you do get a little bit cheated on that part of it. I did enjoy the end. I liked the reveal of Roy Burns. I thought that was handled very well. I like how he falls out of the barn and lands on the farm implement, and it's like a plow or something, I don't know, but lands on all these spikes, and the mask comes off, and you see that it's Roy Burns. And I did very much like how that ended. I thought the transition was good. And of course, one of the main things I did forget to talk about is this movie all is the story arc also of Tommy Jarvis, who, you know, gets his beginning in part 4, continues on in part 5, and even continues on further in part 6. All played by 3 different actors. Of course, your part 4 is Corey Feldman. Your next one is Tom Matthews. And then this one, I believe his name was John Shepard. I think all of them did a pretty good job as Tommy Jarvis with the material you're getting and no timeline. And you're this age in one, you're this age in another. But for all purposes, if you will, part 5 is not a terrible movie. It just has to be taken with a grain of salt. And that's why it falls at number 8 on my list. But it does not deserve to be thrown on the floor. So we are just going to set that right there. Moving on to number 7, which just happens to also be Friday the 13th, part 7. This is the introduction of Kane Hodder as Jason Voorhees. This movie was directed by Carl Buechler, I believe. Buechler. If I'm pronouncing it wrong, I do apologize. This entry took Friday the 13th to a different level, but I have to be honest, for the timing of it and for the look of Jason Voorhees, this movie is a very good middle of the road in the ranking system, and it has a high re-watch value to it if you want to see Jason probably looking at his best for the returned from the grave Jason, if you will, the zombified Jason. This was definitely the best look. The makeup effects are spectacular. When he comes up out of the lake and they get a shot from the back and you actually see like Jason's spine and all the rotting flesh, and as he's walking the spine is moving, the effects and the makeup, amazing. This actually was the compromise movie, if you will, for all the legal battles going on to make Jason versus Freddy, which they could not do at the time, but they really wanted to put something together that was different. So you get Jason versus Carrie, basically. And in this case, it's Tina. Tina has telekinetic powers. Tina, as a child, lived on Crystal Lake and accidentally killed her father in a fit, basically. Her father was drunk, abusive, would smack her mom around, and in a fit of rage, not really understanding her telekinetic powers, she accidentally kills her father, in which he drowns in Crystal Lake. We fast forward, I think, like 10 years she's been in a psychiatric ward. I'm not entirely sure. Her doctor basically convinces her mother and Tina that it would be good to go back to the house where all these things happened. What we slowly find out is that her doctor, Dr. Cruz, is a complete sleaze, and he really brought her out there knowing that it would heighten her stress, and that way he could learn how her telekinetic powers worked and could basically make a sideshow out of her and get that money. So, and what's funny is that the doctor is played by Terry Crews. That's his name in the movie. I can't remember the actor's name once again. You can beat me up in the comments for my lack of homework of actors' names. But he played the guy in Weekend at Bernie's. He was Bernie.
Party time! Should have been out there sailing with us today, Bernie. Sun was fabulous, wind was fabulous, we had a great time. Oh, hi, guys.
So anyways, of course, you get to the lake, and the house right next door to the house that Tina and her mom and her doctor are at is, of course, rented out by a bunch of partying 30-year-olds who are supposed to be playing teenagers. They all have rented this place out for the weekend to surprise one of their buddies for their birthday. You have the major downfall of this movie is, of course, and it happens a lot in Friday the 13th, so you have to cut it a little bit of slack, is clearly the acting. You have a couple people who you can tell are into the material and are really trying to give a performance, and then you have ones that they're probably actually as high as their characters are supposed to be, and it completely translates onto film.
Columbian Express is pulling out. All aboard. Ding, ding.
And you have the very cliche characters in this one. Of course, you have the good-looking dude who becomes the love interest. You have the quirky couple. You have the rockabilly stoner dude. And then you got the sci-fi stoner dude. And then you have the super bitch chick and a couple other girls that all are fighting for the rockabilly dude. It's just as cliche as it can get with the characters. And they really serve no other purpose except to be murdered by Jason. So, this movie also got, kind of a unique label, which I'm not even going to go into on here. If you want to find out about it, you can go find out about it yourself. But there definitely were chemistry issues between your two leads. And you can feel that. You can feel that they are not jiving at all on this film. The thing that ultimately makes this film phenomenal, though, is Kane Hodder's performance as Jason in this movie. This is his standout movie. This is the one where I can understand why he was cast in 3 more after this one, but I don't feel that he ever captured quite the same magic with the character as he did in Part 7. And, of course, so you have a great square-off between him and Tina. As far as before we get into the square off between him and Tina, as far as kind of your standout moment kill in this movie, I guess you're going to have to go with the super bitch character, Melissa. She's like throwing another fit, and she goes to storm out this door, and she opens the door, and Jason's standing there and just buries a hatchet into her head and then launches her across the room. The standoff between Tina and Jason is actually done very well. And if you can look past the fact that you're watching a Friday the 13th and it's a little weird to see a character in it with telekinetic powers, like throwing televisions at Jason with her mind, there really is some quality stuff in here. She wraps these vines around him outside and pushes him into this puddle face down, and then pops electrical wires down and fries them. And the more and more that she beats the crap out of Jason, the more and more angry Jason gets. And this is where Kane Hodder really steals the show. He projects that anger. I mean, he's wearing a ton of prosthetics. He's wearing a freaking hockey mask, and you still feel how angry Jason is that this girl is kicking his ass with the power of her mind. Now, where this film and why this film is sitting at number 7 is because you do, as I said, the acting is very subpar in this. The ending is bad. And it's not Carl Buechler's fault it's bad. He was backdoored by his not executive producer, but by the assistant producer, who didn't like the makeup, the zombified makeup of Tina's dad. So the end, Jason's about to get Tina. They're on a pier. She, through the power of her mind, resurrects her father to come save her from Jason, in which he bursts through the pier and he grabs Jason and drags him back down into Crystal Lake. First of all, a little bit weak of an ending as it is, but especially when you get the ending that we get with his face is just dirty. I mean, like I've come home from work dirtier than this dude was. And that was very disappointing, and especially when you see what could have been in the Crystal Lake Memories, where they show the full zombied makeup of the dad. It was really good, and that, even though, as I said, the ending's weak for the overall ending anyways, but at least you would have gotten a little bit more with the actual zombified dad. So for that reason, that is why Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, lands at number 7. But I will say, for a later entry in the Friday the 13th series, this is definitely has the most re-watch value of it, and that is due to the makeup and performance by Kane Hodder. So once again, this one does not deserve to be thrown on the floor. This is a pretty decent film, and I do recommend, if you hadn't gotten this far into the series, that you do check out some Part 7, The New Blood. Well, that, my friends, takes care of episode 2 of this series. We got 2 more to go and 6 more films to go. As I said, this is so much fun for me. I truly am doing this as a passion project. This is not I'm going to quit my job and be a YouTube star, and, and algorithms and Patreons. And this is just, I have fun doing it. And if 5 people watch it and I entertained those 5 people, then I am stoked and super appreciate you joining me for this ride. So as always, please, if you're digging it, stay tuned for the next episode. And my friends, make sure to take care of each other and have a wonderful evening.